She was 18 years old and she was found lifeless in her room. A deep mark was etched into her neck, a clear sign of pressure, and a visible bruise marred her head. The attacker had tried to manipulate the crime scene, to stage it as a suicide. But the most chilling detail was a warning the victim had already given her friends. If something happens to me, you know who did it. What could have driven someone to act with such cruelty? On May 5, 2005, Ana Maria was born, the family's second daughter. From her earliest days, those around her noticed something different, something that made her unique. At home and among all her loved ones, she was affectionately known as Nana. From a young age, Ana Maria had a personality defined by a very particular sense of humor. Her style was sarcastic and original, and it never went unnoticed. At family gatherings, her witty comments and unique way of expressing herself made everyone laugh, turning her into the life of the party. She also felt a profound love for animals. So much so that, despite considering a career as a veterinarian, she ultimately decided against it. She found the sight of an animal's suffering unbearable. That same sensitivity, however, helped her realize something even deeper about herself. She wanted to dedicate her life to helping others, but in a different way. It was then that she chose to study medicine. She embarked on this path not just out of vocation, but because of her immense empathy and her constant desire to alleviate the pain of others. Ana Maria wanted to heal, to care, to save lives. She was certain that her dream was to specialize in cardiology. As soon as she finished high school, she enrolled at the Pan American University, and on July 17, 2023, she officially began her medical career. She was filled with an infectious enthusiasm. Every day of her studies was a new adventure. When she returned home, she couldn't wait to share every small discovery with her parents. Every concept she learned, every story from her classes. Her motivation was so intense that her conversations buzzed with excitement for the future. Only 2 months had passed since she began this new chapter. Everything seemed to be going well. She had a promising future, a clear path, and above all, a great passion for improving the lives of others. On the afternoon of September 12, 2023, Jimena Cespedes was in Rome, Italy, celebrating her 23rd wedding anniversary with her husband. Despite the distance, she was in constant contact with her daughter, who was home alone in Mexico. Mother and daughter were exchanging text messages. The conversation was flowing normally until Ana Maria sent a short, abrupt message. "Hang on a sec." The words immediately struck Jimena as odd. She read the text again and again, unable to shake a feeling of unease. It was a phrase her daughter never used. There was no obvious sign of trouble, but something just didn't feel right. That strange, persistent premonition grew stronger when she received a message that sent a chill down her spine. Ana Maria had written a sentence that, to a mother's ears, sounded unmistakably like a goodbye. Alarmed, Jimena tried to call her immediately. She dialed the number several times, desperate to hear her daughter's voice, but there was no answer. The calls went straight to voicemail. The silence on the other end of the line only fueled her growing anguish. Thousands of miles away in Europe, desperation took hold. Without a second thought, she pleaded with her neighbor in Mexico to go to the house and check on her daughter. The man acted quickly. He rushed from his home to the Serrano residence where Ana Maria lived. When he entered, he was met with a devastating scene. The young woman showed no signs of life. Without wasting a moment, he called the authorities. When the police arrived and examined the body of the medical student, they quickly realized this was no suicide. Something about the scene didn't add up. The signs were clear. Someone had harmed her. The suicide theory was a facade, a stage set to cover up what had truly happened. Soon, all suspicion began to circle around a single person. Ana Maria herself had confided in her friends, speaking a sentence that now echoed with more force than ever. "If something happens to me, you know who did it." She was referring to her ex-boyfriend. With that crucial lead, the police focused their investigation and reviewed the neighborhood's security cameras. What they discovered confirmed their suspicions. Alan Gil Romero, the young woman's ex-partner, had been captured on video, lurking on the street where the family lived, shortly before the body was found. The images were clear. No one could believe what they were seeing. Alan, who was 20 years old, had managed to enter the house without force. He had exploited the trust Ana Maria still had in him. He entered the residence just before the neighbor discovered her lifeless body. His presence at that place at that time left no room for doubt. Ana Maria had known him for 5 years. They had met at the Alexander von Humboldt German School, a prestigious private institution in Mexico City, attended by the children of affluent families. Ana Maria had been a student there since she was little, while Alan had enrolled in the 7th grade. The school often organized trips allowing students to interact outside the classroom. It was on one of these excursions that the two began to grow closer. They spent more time together, got to know each other better, and soon became inseparable. Both were recognized as outstanding students among the best in their class. They had much in common. They were responsible, competitive, and intelligent. After spending so much time together, they decided to make their relationship official, with the knowledge of both their friends and their families. To everyone, it seemed like a normal teenage romance. In fact, their families had met, shared meals, and even taken trips together. However, the relationship did not last. In June of that same year, they decided to end it. They had been together for about 1.5 years when Alan's behavior began to change. At just 20 years old, he started to exhibit controlling attitudes towards Ana Maria. He became insistent, intense, and emotionally unstable. The charming, friendly boy everyone knew had vanished. After the breakup, Alan refused to accept it. Instead of moving on, he insisted on getting back together. He sent her gifts every week, sought constant contact, and on several occasions showed up at her house trying to talk to her. But she remained firm in her decision. She did not want to rekindle the relationship. That's when his behavior became more persistent and unsettling. The tone of his messages shifted from pleading to threatening. Although he held out hope for reconciliation, Ana Maria wanted nothing more to do with him. Even during their relationship, Alan had shown signs of being controlling. On more than one occasion, Ana Maria had come home in tears because of his extreme reactions. He would get angry if she went out with friends, spoke to other people, or simply enjoyed a social moment without him. Over time, the public image Alan projected, that of a brilliant, polite, and intelligent student, began to crumble. Behind that facade was a possessive and manipulative personality that was becoming increasingly apparent. When he realized his attempts to win her back were failing, Alan made a drastic decision. Instead of accepting reality, he devised a plan to harm her. He thought it through carefully, began to watch her from a distance, monitoring her movements and waiting for the right moment to act. The first time Alan appeared near Ana Maria's home was captured by security cameras at 3:55 in the morning on September 12th. In the dead of night, he arrived in a gray Kia Forte. The car had no visible license plates, which was immediately suspicious. Alan had also taken steps to conceal his identity, wearing a black face mask and a navy blue cap with the visor pulled low. On this first visit, he didn't get out of the car. He simply circled the area, observing, likely scouting the surroundings. He made no move then, but it wouldn't be his last visit that day. Later, around 1:00 p.m., Alan returned in the same vehicle, though this time the license plates were attached. On this second visit, he stopped in front of the house and spoke directly with the family's housekeeper. He asked her if Anna Maria was home. The woman replied that she hadn't returned from the university yet. Alan left, but not before saying he would be back later to deliver a supposed gift. At the end of her shift, the housekeeper went home as usual. She never had the chance to tell Anna Maria about the unexpected visit. By the time the young medical student returned, she was all alone. No one had warned her that Alan had been looking for her, or that he planned to come back. It was around 6 o'clock p.m. that same day when Alan returned for a third time. This visit was also recorded by the security cameras. This time it was Anna Maria herself who answered the door. After a brief exchange, the footage shows Alan entering the home. Inside, behind closed doors, an argument broke out. The confrontation, as reconstructed later, ended in the worst possible way. Anna Maria Serrano lost her life at the hands of the man who was once her partner. Later, the neighbor, alerted by the lack of contact, would be the one to find her body. He immediately called her parents, who, still in a state of disbelief, booked the first available flight back to the country. They were far away, powerless to intervene, unable to prevent the tragedy. The news left them devastated. There was no way to reverse what had happened. All that remained was to say goodbye to their daughter and wait for the investigation to bring clarity, hoping that justice would be served for the life that was stolen from them. After Anna Maria's death was confirmed, authorities removed her body to begin the forensic investigation. The autopsy revealed the precise cause of death. The 18-year-old had died of mechanical asphyxiation. The report specified that death was caused by neck compression in the form of ligature strangulation. Forensic experts found a distinct groove on her skin, the unmistakable sign of a hard, rough, and possibly fibrous object used as a constricting agent. But that wasn't the only finding. Anna Maria's body also showed a visible blow to the head in addition to other signs of a struggle. With the evidence gathered and the medical conclusions, it was officially confirmed. Anna Maria was the victim of a femicide. Following this harsh confirmation, her family was at least able to give her a dignified farewell. On September 18th, surrounded by a large number of people who loved Anna Maria, her loved ones held an emotional and painful funeral. On September 17th, Mexican authorities officially confirmed the arrest of Alan Gil Romero, identified as the primary suspect. He was taken into custody and transferred to the Tlanapantla Penitentiary and Social Reintegration Center, where he awaited legal proceedings. Just 24 hours later, on September 18th, the first court hearing was held. The prosecution presented a detailed timeline of events, highlighting how Alan had approached the home twice on the day of the crime before finally carrying out his violent act. After committing the murder, he allegedly manipulated the young woman's body to make it appear as though she had taken her own life using a window blind, a scenario disproven by the forensic reports. It was also revealed that it was Alan himself who had sent the final message to Anna Maria's mother, a clumsy and unbelievable text, in an attempt to cover up his crime before fleeing the scene. The prosecution's main theory is that the motive for the murder was the end of their relationship. Anna Maria had decided to close that chapter of her life for good, and this, they believe, is what triggered the accused's violent reaction. For the Serrano Céspedes family, the pain is immeasurable. They have lost a young daughter with a promising future, and they are fully aware that nothing and no one can ever bring her back. All they have left is the hope for justice and for the truth to be clearly established. In the face of the overwhelming outpouring of love from friends, acquaintances, and people who followed the case, her parents decided to write an open letter. They published the message on social media as a way to channel their grief and express their gratitude for the support. In the letter, they wrote, "There are no words to describe the pain and helplessness we are feeling right now. No one, especially not those who are just beginning to live, should ever have to carry a sorrow like this. In another part of the message, the parents spoke of the impact their daughter's loss has had on their lives. They took a wonderful friend from us, but they also took our peace and our trust. They taught us that there is evil in the world and life will never be the same. Ana Maria's mother also used the space to address her daughter's ex-boyfriend's family. She stated that since the incident, they have had no contact with them, not with Alan, nor with his parents. At this point in my life, she wrote, I don't know if I ever want to. They have been through every stage, disbelief, anger, sadness. They confessed they had hoped for some gesture, a single human word, however brief, from the accused's family. Instead, they received the very opposite. Alan's mother broke her silence, but only to publicly defend her son. It was an act that left everyone present utterly bewildered, especially despite the overwhelming evidence pointing to her son as the sole person responsible for the death of Ana Maria Serrano. The accused's mother, Erika Romero, chose not to remain silent in the face of the case's gravity. Instead, she took to social media to defend Alan Gil Romero. In her posts, she not only denied her son's responsibility, but launched a campaign with the slogan, Justice for Alan, attempting to construct a narrative that ran contrary to the facts of the case. In a widely circulated video, Erika introduced herself by saying, I am Alan Gil's mother, and I am against violence. With this opening, she sought to position herself as a voice of peace. She then added, like everyone, I ask for justice. Alan is a young man of just 20 years. She went on to spend several minutes painting a picture of him that was entirely detached from the events in question, describing him as an honest, respectful person, a good son, an excellent brother, a loyal friend, and an honors student. It was a list of virtues that, in her view, should be taken into account even if they failed to address the specific accusations against him. The accused's mother didn't stop there. She proceeded to launch harsh criticisms against those who had pointed to her son as the culprit. This is a wake-up call to everyone, she warned, speaking of the risk of judging without knowing the details. It is very easy to get swept away by waves of information that pass judgment, condemn without evidence, and make claims lightly. Meanwhile, on the other side, Ana Maria's family is navigating a profound grief. They mourn the loss of a daughter who had her whole life ahead of her. They watch in pain as the alleged aggressor's mother tries to absolve him of responsibility, while their only solace lies in the hope that justice will act decisively. They expect the 20-year-old to face a sentence proportional to the irreversible harm he caused. Harm motivated, according to the prosecution's theory, by his inability to accept that Ana Maria no longer wanted to be in a relationship that was hurting her. The case has ignited a wave of outrage across Mexico. It has not only been covered by national media but has also crossed borders, becoming a topic of international interest. The sheer scale of the crime has moved thousands. The former Colombian minister José Manuel Restrepo, Ana Maria's uncle, has publicly acknowledged the support he has received from his country. In statements to the media, he expressed gratitude for his compatriots' support and called for continued attention on the case to ensure it does not go unpunished. In the meantime, Ana Maria's parents have been unable to return to their home. They are currently staying in a hotel as their residence remains part of an active investigation, with authorities continuing to gather key evidence. Amid the pain and the void left by Ana Maria's passing, investigators press on. One of the most recent elements to come to light were private conversations Ana Maria had with some of her close friends. In those exchanges, she shared her concerns and warned them about her ex-boyfriend's insistent and increasingly disturbing behavior. She told them she felt harassed and that his contact with her was neither normal nor well-intentioned. The public ministry has incorporated a series of pieces of evidence that reinforce this line of investigation. Among them are screenshots of direct messages sent by Alan to Maria. In these messages, the accused used threatening and controlling language clearly aimed at intimidating her and forcing her back into a relationship she had already decided to end. The content of these texts made his intention to emotionally pressure her undeniable. Some of the most revealing messages included phrases like, "You got yourself into this," and direct warnings like, "I'll give you until 9 tonight to delete photos from Instagram, or else I'll tell your parents what you did." The judicial process is still in its early stages. There is a long road ahead before a final sentence is reached. All the while, Ana Maria's parents, her friends, and everyone who loved her continue to wait for the gravity of what happened to be legally recognized. They hope for the case to be classified as femicide, given the specific circumstances of the crime. Yet the hope for justice is shadowed by a deep concern over the high rate of impunity. According to data from the Mexican Association Against Corruption and Impunity, 76% of crimes of this nature go unpunished. Jimena, Ana Maria's mother, is fully aware of this reality, which is why she decided to speak out. In a statement to the media, she said with stark clarity, "It's one thing for them to catch him, and another thing entirely for them to convict him." Her words encapsulate the fear of many families who have suffered a similar loss. Although the crime occurred more than 2 years ago, the trial has yet to take place. Ana Maria's family has spoken out on several occasions, expressing their outrage at the delay in the legal process and fearing that the case might fade into obscurity. Like so many others related to gender-based violence in Mexico. Why do you think so many similar cases end in silence? Or are delayed for so long? What do you believe needs to change for women and young people to be better protected? In your opinion, how can young people identify and leave a toxic relationship in time? We want to hear your thoughts. Let us know in the comments.